This is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. The question is, has the Fort Bend County Administration, which holds a majority Democrat-run leadership, again, Fort Bend County is primarily run by Democrats. And we know that Democrats have a critical opinion of Americans in general. Democrats largely believe that Americans are racist. They believe that Americans are bigoted. Democrats believe that Americans should not be able to defend themselves because they cannot properly handle weapons. Democrats believe that Americans are ineffective parents and that matters of education, decisions made for the child, should be left to the state because the parents are not adequate enough to make those decisions themselves. So it is safe to say that Democrats do not hold a favorable opinion of the American people at large. But the question is, do the Fort Bend County officials take this premise a step further? And in an attempt to reach a certain political outcome that is in their interests, did they conspire to create a political narrative that is untrue? A political narrative that is basically a lie. Did they create a political narrative that disparages the rightward-leaning residents of Fort Bend County? Well, we know that this happens on a national level, and on a national level, it's certainly happening. A recent study was published by a number of left-wing outlets where they attempted to make the argument that in counties that held a Trump rally, an upward tick in violence happened towards minority communities immediately following that Trump rally. This was in 2019. The Washington Post, Business Insider, Vox, and The Hill released this study stating the counties that held a Trump rally experienced a rise in hate crimes. Several politicians jumped on the talking point and promoted it to their constituents. However, the report was debunked by Reason magazine, which showed that this was essentially a play on numbers and a blatant lie. But that is on the national level. And the question is this happening on a local level? Have the majority Democrat-run Fort Bend County establishment attempted to paint this false portrayal of rightward-leaning residents of Fort Bend County? Well, we can look at the actions of 3 county officials and then you decide. And the first of those 3 county officials is County Sheriff Eric Fagan. County Sheriff Eric Fagan is a Democrat, and he is a stated progressive. And what he did is, on the heels of the January 6th Trump rally, what Eric Fagan did is he assembled a press conference where he had nearly every police official in Fort Bend County. And in a unified voice, the message essentially was, Trump supporters, we are watching you. And what he did is he described that January 6th Trump rally as a day of violence. He specifically referred to it as a riot. And he let everyone know that if this violence, he was insinuating that violence was going to happen from rightward-leaning residents in Fort Bend County. The press pushed back on Sheriff Eric Fagan and asked him what evidence that he had, and he had nothing to offer. He was asked repeatedly, why, out of the blue, is this press conference being organized? He had no good answers. Over the past decade, this country has experienced terrorism of the likes that is unimaginable. We've experienced BLM riots. We've experienced Antifa riots. And none of those instances that I can find did Eric Fagan ever assemble a press conference. But when the Trump supporters on the other side of the continent, in Washington, D.C., not even in Fort Bend County, when they organize a Trump rally in Washington, D.C., he goes into action. And what he did in that statement was he said that he had a police response team in place should anyone take an act of violence as a result of this January 6th Trump rally. So in that statement right there, he has essentially stated that he's weaponized the sheriff's department against the people of Fort Bend County. And that's incident number 1. So that's the actions of Eric Fagan. Now we're going to move on to incident number 2. We're going to talk about the top cop in Fort Bend County, Brian Middleton, the county district attorney. And what Brian Middleton did was he initiated at least an initial investigation into a terrorist cell in Fulshear County, Texas. Now, Fulshear, Texas. Fulshear, Texas is a small farming county. very low population. About the only activity the only excitement that happens in Fort Worth, Texas is Friday night football, the county fair, and if a farm breaks free of the pasture. That's about it. It's small town living, quaint country town. And in the history of Fort Worth, Texas, there's never been, to the best of my knowledge, never been an incident of terrorism. It is a low crime area. And oh, by the way, it is also highly conservative. It is people that do not vote for Democrats. And what Brian Middleton did was he had a meeting where he considered the possibility that what is called a Boogaloo Boys terrorist cell was conducting planning operations in Fort Worth, Texas, to do voter intimidation operations, voter intimidation hit jobs. What the Boogaloo Boys is, to the best of my knowledge, it appears to be a mythical creation of our press, which has no longer any credibility. And this supposed group of Boogaloo Boys, what they are is they're Trump supporters, where they wear Hawaiian shirts, and they go out and they intimidate at voting polls. This is the storyline. And supposedly, this was happening in Fort Worth, Texas. At least the question was raised, was it happening in Fort Worth, Texas? And again, we've never seen anything like this out of Fort Worth, Texas. Until the Democrats take over county administration, then all of a sudden, we're doing investigations into these small country towns for acts of potential crime that were unheard of ever before. Thankfully, County Commissioner Andy Myers stomped this nonsense out. And when this idea was brought to Andy Myers, he defended the people of Fort Worth, he defended his constituents, and he said it was nonsense and it could go no further. This concept could go no further. But the question is, what if Andy Myers, what if he didn't take a stand? What if he didn't have the courage to take a stand? What would that storyline had culminated into? These are the questions of our time, and we all owe a thank you for Andy Myers. And finally, we're going to talk about the third instance. Now, everything that I've presented thus far is only circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial. There is no smoking gun. Or is there? And we have to look at the actions of Terrell Patel. And Terrell Patel is the chief of staff of county judge, the chief county executive, KP George. And Terrell Patel has been, as I understand it, indicted for online impersonation, where what he would do is online, he would take people's photographs, people that look like Trump supporters, he would create profiles online, and then he would go out and make disparaging comments towards minorities. And ultimately, this charade was put down by the authorities. But the question is this the smoking gun? What I did today is I presented 3 incidences of what appears to be a conspiracy. And the question we have to ask is, at what point in time do these quote-unquote coincidences, or I shouldn't call them that, at what point in time does it become statistically impossible for these events to just be a coincidence? At what point in time is it proven that it's a conspiracy? Well, see, the truth is that you have to answer that question yourself. And if there was a conspiracy, if these were conspired events, if there were text messages sent back and forth, if these ideas were written down on cocktail napkins over drinks at a happy hour, if they were jotted down on a whiteboard, if it was a plan jotted down on a whiteboard, then that, in fact, is a conspiracy. And that means that your county administration is conspiring against the people, the constituents that it represents. That means they're using their duties, their official duties, to go against the people of Fort Bend County, Texas. That means that while we're paying their salaries, they are taking action against our interests. And we have to ask the question. They are here to police the criminals, but we have to ask the question at this point, who are the criminals? Well, thankfully, there are laws in place to protect us from this sort of things. If this is a reality, and I'm not saying it is, I'm simply laying out a series of events to the listening audience and asking you to use your better judgment, and you decide if this is something more than just a happenstance, just a continual set of coincidence. It's like a bouncing ball, and the bouncing ball, for some reason, always bounces against the interests of the citizens and towards the interests of the county establishment of the Texas Democrats. But if this is more than just a bouncing ball, there is something called the RICO Criminal Conspiracy Act, and it's in place to protect you from this stuff. And essentially what this law is, it's a law that states that when parties come together in a conspiratorial manner and they begin to take actions of crime against the people of the country, the people of Texas, then that is a federal crime. And that's a question we have to ask ourselves. Now, the truth is that unless the citizens of Fort Bend County begin to demand answers, unless they begin to call their county representatives, and I'm not talking about the Republicans, you call the Republicans, you call the Democrats too, unless they begin to take these issues to the commissioner's court, take these issues to other public outlets, nothing gets done. The only way the law is restored is if citizens get involved. And this is the Chris Heasley Show. And on this show, we will give you all the ideas, the content, the information that you need to take back your city, your borough, your village, your township, your school district, your county, your state, and your country. But it's on you. The onus is on you to get involved. Because we advocate for local activism, always local activism. Because at the local level, you get the best bang for your buck. And we need this country. As Samuel Adams said, he said, we need to light the country with 1,000 brush fires for liberty in order to save the country. And that's what we need from county to county across the country. We need citizens to find the spirit of 1776 that runs through our veins here in Texas. We need citizens to find the spirit of 1836 that runs in our Texas blood and take the political action, all peaceful political action, to take back our cities, our counties, our country, and our nation. And with that being said, we have a very interesting show today. The purpose of today's show is to give a state of Fort Bend County. And we have two people on the show today that are certainly qualified to do that. And our guests are Patricia Guebara. Did I pronounce it right?
Guebara.
Guebara. Okay, great. And Patricia is running for the JP Court. Patricia, tell us exactly what you're running for.
Yes, I'm running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 4 in Fort Bend County. And I just want to explain to the people what the JP Court does. Besides getting married, because
we'll give you 1 second. Let's introduce John, and the ball goes back in your court.
Okay.
John,
That's
I'm only
me.
putting these headphones on just to make sure everyone's audio is working. Jon Welch.
That's right.
Is with the Lamar Independent School District, and he is on the school board for Lamar Independent School District. Correct?
That's right. Yeah, I'm on the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District board. I've been on there for 5 years. We actually cover 43% of Fort Bend County, so we have a huge footprint. A lot of people don't understand that Fort Bend ISD does not cover all of Fort Bend County. So we are a big entity in the county, where I think we're the second or the third largest employer in the county. And most of the people who are now moving to Fort Bend County are moving within the Lamar footprint. So thanks for having me on your show today.
Thank you, man. And I want to talk more about you. And I want to talk about how we met and everything of that sort.
Yeah.
John is a freedom fighter as well. But with that being said, Patricia is in the hot seat because Patricia is in a contested election, in an election, right? She is in a competitive election. She's going for a particular office. And so all of the attention is on Patricia right now. So we want to start off by just, Patricia, if you could please introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I grew up in Fort Bend County. I'm a first-generation Hispanic, oldest of 4 children, and graduated from Terry High School. Started working for the county in 2012, married, and have a son.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. And so tell us how you found yourself in a position where you're running for the JP Court.
Okay. In 2018, I seeked a different office. Currently, I was working at the county clerks with Laura Richard. After I couldn't advance anymore in that office, I seeked another office and ended up in the JP Court. Judge Ward ended up hiring me with no court experience. And literally, I hit the floor running in that court. The admin at that office had so much faith in me. She sent me to court 3 weeks in, and I was like, "Are you sure? I don't know what to do." She's like, "You'll be fine." A month in, she said, "Do the attorney docket." I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And that was the end of it. I enjoy every day that I work in the JP Court. I enjoy what we do there
How long have you been doing it?
since 2018.
2018. Very good. What did you do before that?
County clerk.
Oh, okay.
I was in the OPR department, official public records.
And so that also somewhat relates to your qualifications for this position, correct?
We were handling all public records, so deeds, for property. We would issue, she also does the vital records department, so birth certificates, marriage license.
And what exactly office are you in? Which precinct is it?
Precinct 4.
Precinct 4, Justice of the Peace Court Judge, correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay, great. So tell us why you want this position, why you're running for this position.
So I really enjoy what we do in that court. Going to court, I pretty much have dockets 2 to 3 times a week because the court that I'm currently in is a slow paced. But when I was in the fast paced court, we had dockets pretty much every day. Just one day I was watching judge on the bench and handling cases, and I said, you know what, I want to do that. So I talked to her. I said, when you retire, I'm going to run. And so I wouldn't run against her. And then they redistricted the county. That was a whole mess.
Yeah, that was.
So after that, I went to work for Judge Jansen. And same thing. I said, hey, Judge, when you retire, I'm going to run. I said, if you let me know. And because I wouldn't run against him either. I mean, he was a great judge. And he told me, he said, hey, I'm retiring. I said, all right, Judge, I'm going to run. So because of the redistricting, it ended up being Precinct 4. So that's where I'm running for, is Precinct 4.
And so you say that you're not running against an incumbent. Is that right? Who is the judge that holds it now?
Correct. It's an open seat. Judge Jansen retired in October, so he didn't finish out his term. Commissioner's Court appointed a temporary judge, Dora Olivo, to finish out the term. So she's there through December.
And what is the state of the JP courts in Fort Bend County today?
Most of them, they're functioning courts. JP4 is a little backed up, but what court isn't with their dockets? It slowly has gotten there after the redistricting. When they were in Needville and coming to be a fast-paced court, they just slowly been backing up. Their civil docket is about 2 to 3 years backed up. So my primary priority in January is to catch it up.
Okay, real quick. The civil docket is 2 to 3 years back. 2 to 3 years back. That's court. That essentially means that the court is it's ineffective. It's not even working.
Unfortunately, but right. And there's other issues. They were understaffed because they were a small court. They didn't have coming into Richmond more cases coming in. They're receiving more cases. I think they're receiving about 30 to 40 debt claims a day. Their civil docket for evictions, each docket is about 25 to 35 cases.
So if I today go to JP Court in Fort Bend County and I place a citation, a lawsuit, how long does it take for me to get a court date?
Well, first you file the small claims to get the defendant served. Yeah, it'll take about maybe a year and a half.
That is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
I mean, that is ridiculous. So, I mean, just so the listening audience can understand, if you find yourself in any crossway with another party and you want to take the matter to court, essentially you're hung out to dry for possibly more than a year. If you're doing that in Fort Bend County JP courts, that is Harris County is maybe 3 months or 4 months, and it's potentially more than a year in Fort Bend County.
Right, that's the case with JP4. Now, if you're filing in JP22, you're looking at about a month and a half.
Okay, real quick, you're running for JP Court 4.
4.
Okay. So then it's not necessarily something to do with the economy or anything like that. For example, maybe there's a lot of evictions or what. It's not that. If one precinct is working copacetically and the other one's backlog, it's not something that's across the board. Am I understanding correctly?
Well, you've got to understand JP2, Precinct 2 has 2 JPs. They have JP21 and then they have JP22. So Precinct 2, defendants or plaintiffs can file in either court. JP4 only has JP4 court, just one court. And if you realize at the map, JP4 extends throughout Fort Bend County. It starts back there in Kendallton through Beasley, Rosenberg, Richmond, part of Needville, through Four Corners, and up there in Mission Bend.
So is that the only reason that this is happening? Has it always been this way? I mean,
No. It was after the redistricting. So you got to understand, when Judge Jansen was in Needville, he was handling maybe 20 criminal cases for tickets a week, possibly. That's an exaggeration. Civil cases, his docket for evictions were probably maybe 10. And then commissioners decides, hey, let's move these lines and put him in Richmond. Well, when they did that, and he took over Precinct 4, which is essentially was way bigger, and it was just one judge, they got slammed.
John, feel free if you want to join in at any time.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I was just going to talk about the state of Fort Bend County at some point, but I do need to make this disclaimer. Everything that I say here, I speak for myself alone and nobody in the school district today. So
okay, but real quick, I'm just saying, if you want to ask her a question, because I want to cover this thing right real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, please. So, all right, so it's this backlog is simply because of redistricting. Is that the reason?
In part, yes. And then, of course, unfortunately, Judge Jansen didn't finish out his term, and they appointed Dora Leavell to finish the term. And so, just things just add up.
So maybe Dora is fumbling with a situation that's very tumultuous, or
Could be. I mean, she was new to the JP court.
she's new. So so we have a woman who's attempting to understand everything and get it. She's been handed a court that's overwhelming,
Yes.
and it's like they really threw her in with the water, maybe too much, too deep is maybe what's happening.
Possibly. Mm-hmm.
Well, what are you going to do to? I mean, okay. So, what are you going to do to when you become JP Court judge? How far out's the docket going to be?
Well, since with my experience of all these years watching and handling dockets, I know come January I'm going to fill those dockets. I'm going to be busy at least for a year and a half trying to catch it up. I'm going to hit the floor running. We're going to have arraignment that January 3rd. I'm going to be on the bench. We're going to have civil eviction the following week.
You're ready to go.
Oh, yes.
Man, you look confident. I will say that.
Thank you.
You look very confident.
I tell you this: some of the other judges of Fort Bend County that I've gotten to know, some of the district court judges, they've told me that when they've won in 2022 and they got in there after 4 years of a Democrat in those seats, there's really no reason there was such a backlog in the district courts. I'm not exactly sure about the JP courts, but I do know this: throughout Texas and Harris County, also, when the Democrat judges win, sometimes they just don't want to go to work. And sometimes I've learned from the judges that I know that other people who fill these seats are lawyers and they have a specialty in one area, but they are elected through the anti-Trump wave or the Biden coattails, or however you want to say it, in Harris County, Democrat Harris County, and they get in positions that they don't really understand. And so they're really trying to understand the new level of law and cases coming towards them. Right. And that also contributes to the backlog, because that's what's happening in Fort Bend County. The Republican judges have won a few seats in 2022, and they've gone in there and they're going, there's no reason for these backlogs. And so I imagine you're going to probably face the same thing when you win.
I'm sure.
And get in there in the JP court.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm sure that's going to happen as well.
You're going to be cleaning up things.
Oh, yes, yes. Like I said, for about a year and a half, I'm going to be cleaning it up.
Well, what happened is when the Wuhan flu hit us, it was as if at the same time we had an election in Harris County, these JP courts, Judge Russ Ridgway's court over on, I can't think of the road, maybe Chimney Rock, I don't know. But it's on Chimney Rock. And his court in Harris County had been Republican for 50 years, and it gets turned to a Democrat. And it gets turned to a Democrat when there was a trend of where we saw the Obama popularity waning and this red wave Trump MAGA on the surge. And I sat here and said, how, when we're going into a movement towards the right, how did Judge Russ Ridgway, nearly, I think every JP court judge in 2020 lost that was Republican. Or do you remember that?
I do. Yeah. Well, that was when Judge Jansen got reelected, so he was okay.
But that's Fort Bend County.
Yeah, that's Fort Bend County.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And the districts were different then than they are now.
Yes, yes.
So what happened was that after the 2020 census, which was late because of COVID and all the mess of that, The numbers finally were given to the state and finally trickled down to the counties and the school districts in the city. And the Democrat-run Commissioners Court of Fort Bend County took those numbers and they took the 4 precincts. The whole county is divided into 4 precincts. So there's 4 commissioners, and then there's 1 county judge. But they completely redrew the lines geographically and messed with long-established lines in Fort Bend County, and it really combined several different points of the county that had never been combined before. And that's probably also part of the backlog is my guess, because
Correct.
like you had District 1 at the time used to be Rosenberg and Needville and all those areas. Now
Yes.
District 1 is up in the Fulshire area in the north part of the county. And so I imagine there's just a lot of jostling and happening that probably some of the officials were not prepared for. But the Democrats pushed it through because of the dang Harris County Democrats that influenced them. And who knows who was beyond that, the state party or possibly the national party as well. Because their eyes on Fort Bend County. They
Yeah,
know
big
that Fort
time.
Bend County is a purple county now, unfortunately. I want to encourage the folks that democracy does not equal Democrat Party. You all need to understand that.
Yeah.
And they do not believe in transparency, and they do not believe in fair and free elections for U.S. citizens only. And the other thing is, we're not a pure democracy. A pure democracy would be chaos. It's not able to function in society. We are a republic. So I always say they had a slogan 2 years ago of vote Democrat to save democracy. My slogan is vote Republican to save democracy for our republic, because we are a republic.
Okay.
And, go ahead.
No, to play off that. First, Patricia, what is the state of your campaign today? I mean, how are you looking for election?
It's very positive. I get a lot of positive feedback. I have a
You're
lot of
feeling
people.
good.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Good. Well, I mean, I would say that this is an excellent interview.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. You seem so prepared, so confident. And I think it's a super important job. I mean, most people are frustrated when they go to JP courts. They are, sometimes the staff is unfriendly, and that and the other, the lines and everything of that sort. So I hope that you are able to bring some efficiencies and make a great court out of that one. That would be great.
Oh, yes, that's a priority.
Patricia, is your opponent the person that was appointed by the court?
No.
The commissioner? Who's your
No,
opponent?
my opponent is Keisha Smith. She works at the tax office.
Okay.
That's as much as I know about her.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely prepared because of all
Oh,
the
yes.
years in those other courts watching the JP, and so you're ready to take that next step.
Oh,
so.
yes. Mm-hmm.
How do you feel finding yourself in a political position? And I'm just going to tell from the little I've met of Patricia, she is she is not a typical politician. I think it's safe to say.
I am not a
She's somewhat
politician.
out of her comfort zone. She blushes a lot. Go ahead, tell me.
Yes, I'm definitely not a politician. So when it comes to this campaign, it's like, I'm not sure what I'm doing with this campaign, but put me on that bench and you're not going to be disappointed.
Good.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's exactly what we need. Is people have to be willing to put their name on a ballot, and you did, and you stood up, and you've done that, and so you're taking that next step. So
Yes.
I'm proud to know you, and it's
Thank you.
good that we're going to get that court back.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So, John, on
Yeah.
your point, okay. So you heard my opening monologue, where essentially I think it's safe to say that Democrats, they do not like Americans. All the pejoratives they have for Americans, all in any type of opinion, it's always negative. It is safe to say that Democrats do not like their own constituents, while at the same time we have a border that is completely unraveled.
Right.
We have a migratory invasion happening on our southern border, and all Democrats want to talk about is how Americans are racist, how Texas are racist, and they do not want to go and talk about this border. And it is as if the Democrats are pointing their finger at Americans, calling us racist, and getting us to stay in our seats while they wave in this migratory invasion because they have a political plan in place. Is that sort of what you were alluding to?
That's exactly what I was alluding to. The Democrat Party as a whole, they don't believe in the exceptionalism of America. They don't believe that we are the exception in world history of tyranny and oppression and communism and all the other isms that are negative. They believe that the golden goose of our economy and everything is never going to die, and all we got to do is just let these folks in because they're just looking for work. And that is just such a lie. And I don't know what other motivations they might have to balance out the world, quote unquote, with people from other parts of the world to come here to share, but it's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable, and the part of the problem is also that they want to let these folks who are quote unquote just coming here for work to vote in our elections, and they don't have any skin in the game. They don't necessarily believe in our founding documents. They don't understand what it is to be an American, and they're wanting those folks to vote for JP in school board races and even the president. And so that's part of the issue as well.
Okay, but I'm going to push back on you a little bit there.
Let's go.
And all right, so what I understand from what you're sort of saying is that Democrats, they just don't believe in America, and they have this sympathetic view towards immigrants, towards migrants. Is that the case, or are they implementing an agenda that's against our interests? Are they operatives for foreign adversaries, and they are implementing an agenda to a political attack on the country, some sort of a Sun Tzu art of war type of tactic on us, where they intend to get us to sit in our seats while they call us racist, and they replace us with these migrants, expecting those migrants to vote for them? Is that what they're doing?
Well, that's very possible. I don't personally know that, but the distinction is the Republicans love immigrants. The Republicans have been at the forefront of immigration in this country since the party was founded. It's the illegal aspect of the immigrants is what we don't like. And I don't know if the average Democrat will make that distinction or not. It's like when we talk about illegal immigration, they will ignore the word illegal and they will just talk about immigration. So I think I know where you're going with that, and I don't know if it is some big one world government agenda that the U.S. politicians subscribe to. It's very possible. It doesn't really make any sense any other way. But I don't, because what's a real life practice is to try to understand what your political opponent is thinking and doing, and what could be the reason that Biden would just completely reverse all of Trump's border protections and allow people to flood in from all over the world. These aren't folks from Mexico. These are people pouring into Mexico from all over the world coming here. So what could be the mindset of the National Democrat Party? I'm not talking about necessarily the individual average guy who goes down the street and votes Democrat because he doesn't know anything else. And he's like, yeah, why not? That person may or may not be conspiratorial or hate America. He might love America. He might say, well, they had their chance and I'm going to vote for the other party now. There's all those motivations. I'm talking about the leadership mostly on the county level, on the state level, and the national level. So, yeah, it very well could be some kind of international
I got another
agenda.
question for you, though. So first thing is that I think it's safe to say that, if you're over here and you are a citizen and you want to bring over extended family to some extent, of course, you shouldn't be living, if your mother's in some far part of the land, she should be afforded the ability to come here. If your brother or your sister are on another part of the land, they should be afforded the ability to come here. But this open-ended immigration plan, when we've had more than 60 million immigrants since Teddy Kennedy implemented the laws to open up the country for immigration. At what point is it sort of, our highways are just filled to the rim with cars. Every single time we go out there, we're in bumper to bumper traffic. And so I think it's okay to ask the question, can we maybe put again, outside of those particular interests where you're bringing over your family members or whatever, but just open-ended for every person across the planet to come in, that goes against the interest of all of us. And
Sure
I'm
does.
saying that even with regards to the newly arrived immigrants.
Yeah.
They have to come here. They have to establish themselves. They have to set up shop. And if we just keep overwhelming them, they're never going to get on their feet. And so, that's sort of what my opinion is on that. But regarding the migratory invasion, the question I have is, okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave the question. Is this a conspiratorial attack on the country? Or it's just they're just a set of buffoons and they keep making mistakes and tripping over themselves? Well, let's say that they are just, I personally think the Democrats are wicked smart. I think they're brilliant. And I don't think that these are all mistakes. But let's go ahead and just say, it's just happenstance. Does it matter? Right now we have a fentanyl invasion on our southern border where the Chinese communists are coordinating with the cartels and then giving entry by the American Democrats into this country, placing fentanyl on candy and then dropping it off at around our schoolyards. So what does it matter if it is a accident, buffoonery, which it's not, or if it is a calculated tactic to take down or hurt our people? What you have an opinion on that?
Well, I think it has to do with this white guilt part of it that's prevalent in the Democrat mindset. And I think it also is an anti-colonialism. There's this idea out there that anything that came from Western culture is tainted and negative because it's from those old white guys. And I think that is a oversimplistic mindset that has infiltrated throughout the Democrat Party and their policies. So, yeah, I don't understand why, just from a logic perspective, Biden-Harris would have come in on the first week of their time in their administration and reversed policies that were working, and to allow all these folks to come into our country who don't have the best intention all the time and who are bringing in the illegal drugs. And I mean, your idea makes the most sense.
Right, because again, I get pushed back. This station that we're on right here has a large minority community listening, and they are the people that are legally bringing over their family members here. And so when I present the idea that an open border on our southern border is a threat to all people, a lot of times that gets misconstrued and said, oh, you want to cut it off, entirely. And that's just a blatant lie. It's a misrepresentation of what I'm saying. I'm saying that when that fentanyl comes across that land and is dropped on our playgrounds, that all of our children are vulnerable to picking that up and the fate having the fate that comes with it. But let's go ahead and get back to the misrepresentation of Americans, because we're in the midst today of a right-wing surge amongst our minority community. Within the black community today, the support for the Republican Party amongst our black population is the same as it was before it went Democrat. That means that about the year 1900, we are at the same level of popularity Republicans are with the black community as it was back then. And everybody knows this. This is happening right now on our watch. And so when you see our Fort Bend County officials continue to malign the people of Fort Bend and call them racist, bigoted, they put out this narrative, they're doing it for our minority community as well.
Yeah, they are. If you go back and you read history, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois in the early 1900s, those two folks were both black, and they were on the opposite sides philosophically of political issues and direction of the country. And those same two philosophies and ideas are still present today. And so you do have black judges and conservatives throughout our government, the national government, local government. But those people are often sidelined because of the louder voices of the KP Georges, who try to go in and say, all Republicans are racist, look at them. And they won't acknowledge the ones that are not, that don't look like them, that are elected on the other side of the aisle. They just ignore it. They act like it's just not there. And KP George, and we talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about
that. I'll tell you this. I am an elected official of Fort Bend County. I'm very low on the totem pole. But I am calling on KP George, if the allegations against him are true, and he knows if they are or not, to go ahead and save us a year or more of taxpayer dollars and rigmarole in the courts, and just go ahead and resign. That'd be the proper thing to do. I mean, it's going to affect economic development in the county. It's going to put a lot of drama in the commissioner's court. And it's just, there's no win-win here. So if it's true, and if it is or not, sir, go ahead and resign. Yesterday, Commissioner Andy Myers, the commissioner on the court, also asked for his resignation. Terrell Patel, who is the Precinct 3 candidate for the commissioner's court, running against Andy Meyer, used to be his chief of staff, KP George's chief of staff. It seems like, allegedly, that Terrell Patel and KP George ran this scam in 2022 when KP was running for re-election for county judge, and his opponent was Trevor Nels, the brother of the congressman. And supposedly the Democrat Party won that election in Fort Bend County, and they evidently ran the same thing. They ran fake race. They created fake profiles. I don't know if it was stealing identity or not then, but they ran fake profiles on social media, and then they responded to them saying, oh, we're not racist after all. And there's actually video of KP George going on Channel 13 here locally, asking his opponent to come out and disavow the comments that were made on social media. And so he creates this whole narrative. And so they like to play the game of he's a racist, he's a bigot, he's a homophobe, he hates women, and get your reaction to it. And they've been running the scam for years, and some reason the media keeps buying into it, and so much of the population keeps buying into it as well. I don't understand why.
And Patricia, you said that this matter that's right now burgeoning hot in Fort Bend County, that the JP courts are completely separate from it. There's no spillover amongst these items. Can you clarify that?
Right. So the JP judges, they have no strings to pull when it comes to Commissioner's Court. There's, even though they're elected officials in the county.
Your position on the matter is that you are here to run the courts, and that's what you'll do, and you'll do it in line with the law, correct?
Correct. Following the legislator, statutes, and the orders from the district attorney.
I mean, isn't that the response that every county official should have? Stay in your lane, get your job
Exactly.
done.
Right.
Okay. John.
Yep.
All right. Let's step back there because you went through about 6 different stories in a minute. First of all, let's talk about Terrell Patel. Mm-hmm. Who is Terrell Patel and what happened?
Well, he used the online alias. He called himself Antonio Scallywag, and
who is he, real quick? Who is?
I'm not making that up. He is the candidate for Commissioner Court position number 3 right now. On the Democrat side, he is the sitting candidate. He's trying to become a commissioner in Fort Bend County, one of the 4 commissioners.
And what does he do currently as a job? And go ahead, answer your question, but then tell me also what he does currently.
I couldn't tell you what he does for a living. He used to be, I don't know if he's still in that position or not. He used to be the chief of staff for KP George, the county judge. I don't know.
And KP George is the county judge, which is the chief executive for the county.
Yeah, and the state should really rename that position because they're not judges in the traditional sense. Not a judge like you would be.
Correct.
It's really a misnomer.
But it's a Texas tradition to call them judges.
I know. It's basically, if you folks don't know, it's the mayor of the county government. It's not exact a parallel, but think of it like that in a sense. He's the head of the county government. He's elected county-wide. The commissioners are elected from their specific precincts.
So Terrell Patel is running for. He's a former county employee that he's now running for county commissioner. Go ahead.
That's right. And as I understand it, Dexter McCoy, who is also a current commissioner, who's a really nice guy. He's a Democrat. He used to also work in the KP George's office, as I understand it, and he decided that he was going to leave that employment and run for commissioner, and he won. And I heard through my sources in the county that KP wasn't happy with that, and whether or not that's true, that's neither here or there. But Patel was his chief of staff, and they've evidently been in cahoots for many years. And so, what we don't want is Patel to get on there. We know this guy will do steal people's identity, first thing, and possibly many other things to seek power. And KP's been there for 5-6 years now, and he's also trying to do all these different things. You're trying to say something.
All right, so real quick, just so sum up what he was doing. He was taking these. He was presenting himself as a right-wing Republican. He was creating personalities on Facebook. He was using pictures that belonged to actual residents of Texas.
Yes.
And he was going out there and making incendiary comments towards minorities as if he's a Republican doing it, while KP George is out in the press 7 days a week calling county residents who vote right racist, correct?
That's right. Terrell Patel took a picture of a man from Needville, Texas, which is in Fort Bend County, and he used that picture under the name Antonio Scallywag, and he made racist. So supposedly this Antonio person was a racist Republican making online comments against Patel and other Democrats who are not Anglo. And that allowed Patel and others to call them out and make the Republican Party, all the Republican Party, have to defend it and go out of their way to say, no, we're not racist, you can trust us. And that's the scam he ran. As I understand it, I'm not a lawyer, the problem was that he took the real-life picture of an individual and not just created a fake name.
I mean, the problem should be he did that, plus at the same time, he's a county employee potentially working with the county official to disparage the people of Fort Bend County.
Yeah, that's not the kind of person we need in top leadership in the county.
And by the way, I got inboxed by Antonio Scallywag.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got inboxed by him.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I'm just listening to him, but he was just raising a ruckus over. I believe that there was a person coming out of Beaumont that was going to run against Terrell Patel, and he saw that guy as the real threat. And so he was trying to get me to say things and this, that, and the other. I didn't take the bait.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, okay, so go ahead. So tell more. We got a few more minutes. So how does this link to KP George?
Well, because of as I understand it, the way that they possibly ran the same scam in 2022, and also what I was told was that the Texas Rangers showed up at KP's house recently. It wasn't the Fort Bend Sheriff's Office because there was the conflict of interest. And they've gone through his phone and some of his records, and they have linked text messages and alias accounts of Patel and KP George discussing these things. And so that's the link, as I understand it, of KP being behind it, allegedly. And I think that's where he's going to get in trouble legally.
Has he been indicted?
He has not been indicted. And this is what I fear, is that he will go through some kind of legal motions and either plead some kind of lower level charges, or it'll be dismissed, and that he would be reelected in 2026. Because I'm calling on the Democrat Party of Fort Bend County to call out your own. The folks are not doing right, and they don't represent things that are good and honest and transparent. You guys got to police yourselves over there. You can't keep going with the guy just because he's the incumbent. And there's just a lot of smoke around KP, and has been since 2018 he got in office. And usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And so I'm calling on the Democrat Party and the Democrat voters of Fort Bend County. You guys got to police yourselves. You don't have to keep going with the same person all the time. You have to have better people over there that aren't quite as crazy and corrupt.
Well, I just watched an hour-long interview with Fred Taylor, the Fort Bend County Democrat Party chairman, and he did not make a mention of any of these things.
See, that's unfortunate.
So I don't think that they intend to do the right thing. I think they intend to have their guy, and if these criminal allegations are true, they're going to stick with him.
Yeah.
But real quick though, there is you said you've heard that potentially the Texas Rangers did see a link between Terrell Patel and KP George coordinating in this conspiracy to malign the people of Fort Bend County.
Allegedly, that is what I heard. Yes, I have a friend that works in the county government, and that's the story that my friend told me recently. And that was actually 2 days ago before it broke, and I was really hoping the story wouldn't break until I could come here and I could break it on your radio program. But of course,
it's good
the
enough.
Chronicle and everybody else got it before.
Okay,
that.
but then the question is did KP George make a statement? He did make a statement, correct?
Yeah, and I haven't been privy to that statement.
I wish I had that statement. I wish I could find that statement.
Yeah, I was tied up yesterday and wasn't able to see that, but I'm sure he's.
Okay, do you have anything to add on it? I'm looking at some stuff online here to see. Well, one second, I bumped the wrong link.
No, but I will tell you this: that since 2018, the Democrat leadership of the county has done a lot of negative things that the average citizen might not know. For instance, I mean, the county is growing in population, but the county budget continues to increase far beyond the population. That's one thing that's not a good thing. KP and his gang like to pad bonds offered to the public with pet projects, and they like to sell it under the guise of we need roads and bridges and hey, we need another park over here. But there's so much waste built into these things. The Democrat-led Commissioners Court recently voted themselves a raise in Fort Bend County. KP is going to make $23,000 more next year. There's $180,000, as I understand his salary is going to be. So, I mean, the Democrat Party is doing all these negative things for the county. Earlier, talking about the sheriff. There are over 150 people short in that department, and it's not because of budget. It's because of morale. And evidently, the sheriff doesn't know how to properly staff his department. But anyway, the cops are leaving the sheriff's department, and they're going to the city of Rosenberg, city of Richmond, city of Missouri City. They're going to the constable's office. People don't want to work for the man. And so our sheriff's department is at least 150, if not more, people short right now. And that should not be. We need to elect Marshall Slott. And in fact, I want to encourage the people, when you go vote for president and Ted Cruz and all these other folks, Trump, Cruz, don't stop there and walk out. Go all the way down the ballot vote for the Republican all the way down the ballot. Especially the judges' races and the congressmen and everybody. Don't just think you're going to check 2 or 3 boxes and leave. It's only going to take you an extra 30 seconds or 60 seconds. You're already there, but go all the way down the ballot and make sure you register your vote for Patricia and everybody else that's a Republican on the ballot.
Yes, please make sure to go all the way down. The JP judge, myself, we're at the bottom. Also, Mike Beard, running for constable. He's seeking his 3rd term. Great guy. Runs a great office. Let me tell you, I've known him for years, and I've known his staff. His office is not a revolving door. His guys retire from that office, and that tells you great things about him. Yeah. So he needs to be reelected. So make sure you go all the way down.
Well, I think that, and I'm not advocating for any candidates. Go out there and make your decisions yourselves. But I think that one thing that we need to take into consideration is when the Wuhan flu was dropped on us, when the COVID flu was dropped on us, did our Fort Bend County officials attempt to go totalitarian? Did they attempt to go totalitarian as what we saw in Australia, the nightmare that was Australia? It certainly looks like they were trying to get the ball down the court to make that happen. And if that is the case, that is the first attempt to make this county into a totalitarian county since the War of 1836, since Santa Anna brought his invading army in. And so I agree with all of you. We need to be more surgical with our, we need more thought through on how we vote in these sorts of things. But real quick here, I'm reading this post, breaking news, Fort Bend County District Attorney Brian Middleton's office has issued a warrant for all cellular communications devices belonging to County Judge K.P. George. Law enforcement officials executed the warrant at his home for the devices on George and on Wednesday afternoon. The search warrant issued by Middleton's office states that George may have worked alongside Terrell Patel, his former chief of staff, to use the devices for the purposes of misrepresentation of identity. Patel was indicted this month on 5 felony counts of online impersonation. And so there you go. I mean, that's a big statement right there. So it appears that Brian Middleton is running the operation there, but the one question I have for everybody is Brian Middleton is KP George's best friend. You can go on Facebook and all they're doing is taking selfies together. So why would Brian Middleton be executing a search warrant? Should we be suspicious of that? Because again, everyone remember that when there was the Next Wave Strategies contracts, and what happened
I remember that.
In Harris County and Fort Bend County, they had this door-knocking campaign to go door to door and check your vaccination status. And in Fort Bend County, when the citizens found out about that, 300 citizens showed up in the county commissioner's courts. All of those Democrats were there. All the county officials were there. And we let them know that this is not how things operate in Texas. It's a complete violation of our rights. Yep. But nonetheless, they went forward with the contract. They took the price, the payment from 150 to over 300,000, something of that sort. They doubled down on it, and then questions started to come up about whether the vendor that they chose to do the contracted work, if it was sort of a friends and family sort of thing. I don't know all the particulars because this was 4 years ago, so please go read up on it. But what happened is I believe the Texas Rangers initiated an investigation on KP George. Brian Middleton stepped in and he took over the investigation and found nothing. And meanwhile, he's posting selfies of himself and KP all over the internet. So, does that not make everyone a little bit concerned if justice is going to happen?
If it went down that way, is definitely concerning. And I didn't follow the details of the Middleton involvement in that. But I'm telling you, my friend in the county government told me 2 days ago that the Texas Rangers, basically it's the FBI of the state government, they're the ones that served the warrant at KP George's house. So I assume that they will be involved in this investigation, since it would be a conflict of interest for the Fort Bend DA to pursue this.
Well, this here says that the DA did it. But okay, so that's a question to be answered. But we got another 2 minutes. So is there anything either one of you want to say here to finish up?
Definitely go out and vote. Your vote does count. I know my Hispanic community, definitely, because I heard it. Oh, I don't vote. It's not going to count. It does. And, we are a majority in Fort Bend County Hispanics. If we all go vote, we're going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference, and we need to do that.
Yeah. And they might not think it matters because so many millions of people vote for Trump and Harris, one of the two. But it makes a difference on the local level in your race.
Right.
And
It's
all
very
these
important.
Constable races and everybody else.
Correct.
It's very necessary for
Yes.
all the good folks who believe in our Constitution, who believe in rule of law to get out and vote. It doesn't take a lot of effort.
Right.
And it's like a 2-week period you can go and vote all over the county.
Yes.
And that's the way in Harris County as well. We need good, strong, constitutionally loving people all over this country and the footprint of this voice, of this radio station, to get out and vote. It's easy. You don't need to make a plan and all this stuff. You do it if you need to, but you show up and vote.
Right. Early voting starts October 21st, and they're even open on that first Sunday, noon, 1 o'clock to 7. So make sure to go out and vote. If you're not registered to vote or you need to update your voter registration information, October 7th is the last day. So make sure to do that. And there's places everywhere you can pick up a registration card at your post office, the DPS, any county office. I know I'm going to be at the Guadalupe Church tomorrow after the 9 o'clock Mass and after 11 with a table having people registered to vote.
I would like to encourage people, you said signing off here, follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. Jon Welch. The Welch is like the grape juice. Just Jon Welch Lamar. If you search for that, you'll find me. So I'm pretty active there, and I like to post to keep the community involved, informed about what's going on in the school district. I also give a lot of my own political thoughts about what's going on in the county and in the state and the national government as well. So thanks for having me on your show today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you both for being here, and I want to thank the audience for listening in. This is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. We'll see you back here same time next week.